Which Scotty Cameron putter should you buy? I've got all the new 2024 models to put head to head and see what the differences are and which one might suit your game. Before we get into hitting the clubs, I'd really appreciate if you could hit that subscribe button. Over 75% of people who watch my videos aren't actually subscribed, and it makes a huge difference to the opportunities we can get and the videos we can create if you do hit that subscribe button. While you're there, you might as well like this video and drop us a comment about any other content you'd like to see. Right, let's go hit these putters. So there are 4 key new models in the Phantom range, all which have 2 hosel neck types, which gives us 8 different models in here. And we've also got a new Super Select model. Even though it's not necessarily a new year for Super Select, we've got an extra long length model in this, just because the one in the 11 has been so popular in the Phantom range. Now, if you're wondering what the difference is between the 2 ranges, the Phantom is much more multi-material. That allows them to move the CG, have more efficient weighting, get the weight in place, which is going to provide forgiveness, compared to kind of the Super Select range, which is much more kind of your single one-piece milled club, and typically a more blade-like compared to the more mallets in the Phantom range. We've seen more and more popularity with Phantoms out on tour, especially with the likes of people like Justin Thomas putting the 5 in play. It's been interesting to see how they've refined the shaping this year. And a lot of this is about new sight lines, more refined angles and different alignment aids on the front, because we know alignment is so important in terms of putting, and a lot of people think of alignment with putters as just lines, and really Scotty has gone away from that this year. We see a lot of dots here, we see arrows, we see different shapes, which means there's something for everyone, and there's going to be something to help everyone line up, whichever visual it is that helps them to line up to the hole best. Let's start from the smallest up to the biggest. I've got the 5 here. We also have a 5.5 and a 5S, and the difference is in the neck design. So we can see all the 0.5 models have this kind of shorter, more slant neck, and that's designed for people who have more arc to their stroke. The face is going to rotate a little bit more to match this up and get the ball starting straight. In the just single number models, so the 5, the 7, the 9, the 11, we have this single bend option, and that's probably for people who have a straighter stroke, more face balance style putter. Then we do have the 5S, and that's a centre shafted option for those of you who prefer that style of putter. I'm going to stick with the single bend because this is definitely more me. I square the face up a lot better with this type of putter typically. So over the ball, this is definitely the most compact. It's probably the one that has most blade-like tendencies towards it, and it's been designed that way. It's been really designed for tour players who are moving from a blade but want something more forgiving but don't want something that looks massively different. It still has that single straight top line that we see in a lot of the Newports, and that is on purpose. And you can also see why we kind of have the dot design here, because that is what we see on a lot of blades. Not bad for a first putt. Works pretty well. I really like how we have the different colours here. I actually think it shapes the ball really well, and especially with that fang design, it works really nicely to frame the ball in the centre and kind of complements those dots on the top. I do think those more angular lines on the back also kind of match into the dots and create like this longer, more arrowed like sight line, which is definitely good for someone who doesn't really like seeing lines and finds them a bit restrictive. So if that's you, this could definitely work for you. Now overall, because of the shape and styling of this, you're going to get a lot more forgiveness than a blade, and that's because there's more weight on the perimeter, which makes it more forgiving. So if you don't always catch it out of the centre, if you catch it low or high on the face, the ball's going to roll out more consistently. We still have a milled face on this, so we still have a pretty soft feel that you would expect from the Scotty Cameron range. You can definitely feel there's a little bit more weight to them, and I personally do like that. I feel like it just kind of helps you control the club head a little bit more. Okay, next up we have the 7. I feel like this model's even becoming more and more popular, but it's also such like a classic. We see these on tour all the time. This is a lot more angular, and it's quite interesting because we have a mix of dots and lines. So for someone who's like kind of not sure what helps line them up, but also for someone who really wants the ball framing, this is really going to help. It works well for someone who maybe likes the idea of a line but doesn't want something so narrow, because it's almost creating this kind of long sight line to the target. You can definitely see the size is increasing a little bit here, so if you're someone who prefers the bigger style of footer, finds that more confident and inspiring, there's definitely a little bit more kind of width and depth to this. Oh, I think what's nice with this so far though is You don't feel like there's a change in feel as you move through the range, even though there's different shapes and sizes. So you're not really picking on that, you're really just picking on something that you feel like you can line up well. And it was interesting, we were talking to Mike Madden, who works on the tour. He's a Scotty Cameron putter specialist, and he was saying really a lot of people don't actually realise what they line up well until they get them all down and hit a few putts with them. And it can be that thing that you maybe look at and think, oh, that looks nice, isn't actually the thing that when you put down over the ball, you aim the best. So a real big point here is, if you like one of these putters, the best thing to do is get your hands on them, have a mess around with them on a putting green or at a fitting centre, and see which one you aim the best, because really that's going to give you the best performance in your putting. Okay, number 9. I feel like this is the point where we start to really kind of see the new shape, styling, alignment a little bit more. There's definitely a bit more funky shaping and design features here than we've seen in some of the previous Phantoms. And what I like here is sometimes we go really funky with the big models, but not necessarily some of the smaller ones. This is still a fairly compact mallet, but I really like the kind of the cutout shapings. It still gives the contrast of like the grass colour underneath compared to the club head. And the fact we have these two really long lines that kind of go all the way across the club head, because I know for a lot of golfers, they really love that visual of a really long line along the putter. It's something that you can match up to the ball if you want to, but you don't have to. And I like the fact there's two, because it makes it a bit wider. It's giving you a bit less of that tightrope feeling like I really have to set it off on this kind of perfect one figure line. So the difference here is pretty much all of the head is silver, and a lot of the other ones we could see kind of that black aluminium a little bit more, but I think it works really nicely with those two contrast lines. Interestingly, that I always feel like it came off the face a bit softer. It's just kind of the opposite of what you might expect when you go to a bigger putter. Oof. They were a pretty consistent start line, weren't they? I feel like I lined that up really well, actually. Definitely one that's been shortlisted so far for me. Next up we have the 11, which is probably the model I love the most. I'm absolutely obsessed with this design. I think it's because it's just so different. There's such a strong colour contrast on the top of here from the different materials, but I also really love these arrows on the front, and it's so different from Scotty. It's not something they've done before, but there was loads of research around people using this really well to line up, so they've gone ahead and brought this in onto the top of the top line. I just think it really looks really funky, but still somehow classic, which is like a really hard blend and combination to manage to pull together. Now in this one we do actually also have a longer option, so for people who like to arm lock, there is something in here for you to do that. If you're an arm locker, drop a comment below and let me know how you do it, because I've tried to do it before and I just can't get comfy with it. Like, loads of people say it's cheating, but I'm not convinced it's actually easier. Anyway, I digress. This is the moment where I like pray that my putts just like drop in and they're perfectly on line, because I just love the look of this. Oh, it's looking good, but it was a bit low from the outset. Kind of need that ball's like right in the way of where I need to hit it. This definitely feels like the model that's the heaviest and has the most stability, because there's so much size and shape in here to move the weight around. It's really going to drive up that MOI, give you the most stability on those off-centre strikes. I think Scotty's done a fantastic job with this new Phantoms this year to offer something a little bit different, but still have kind of that key Phantom shaping and styling that's a little bit quirky. I also kind of like the fact they've pared back the colourways. We don't have those kind of pops of yellows that we maybe did initially, because it kind of feels like it's still a little bit more classical, and it might pull some people in from other areas of the Scotty family to try this out and see how they get on. And to be honest, we've seen this more and more on tour. More people are moving to mallets. They're more forgiving. They're going to help us hole more putts, and hopefully they're going to get rid of more 3 putts. So really, they're definitely one worth testing out. Okay, last up we've got the Super Select Square Back. This isn't a new head, it's the head that was in the line previously, but we've got that long arm lock option. Just going to have a go with this. Let's see how we get on. Putt's nearly as long as me. There's definitely a little bit of difference in terms of feel with these. This almost feels like slightly more higher pitched. I think you might think these would be the softest of the range just because they're purely like one piece mill, but actually I feel like the Phantoms felt a little softer, which is interesting. Oh no. I thought that was going to be the only one I'd hold, and it was the one where I was like, I can't putt with arm lock. Obviously there's some great technology across the Scotty Cameron range and some very in-depth knowledge of putter design and what shapes are going to work for different people. There's so many great options here. What I'd really suggest is you get out, test them, see what you like, and let us know if you ended up with an alignment aid which you didn't really think you would.